How about I show you some of the software programs I use to edit and tweak some of my photos. Let's go. Hello, humanoids and pixel peepers. I first need to make a disclaimer about this video. I am by no means an expert at editing photographic images, digital images, but I kinda, sorta, somewhat, kinda know what I'm doing. I've been doing this stuff a while, and actually it's been over 20 years ago. A friend of mine gave me a bootlegged version of Photoshop, and I used to play around with that all the time. And I haven't really used it for the last 12-15 years. Believe it or not, I started using Photoshop 1996 or 1997. I remember I was living in Atlanta. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. But there's been a little bit. I got into Photoshop a couple years ago again, but I really don't need it. Most of the stuff I need to do is done with basic programs like I shoot Canon. So Canon has a Digital Photo Professional 4 editing program. That's the one I've basically been using for the last few years. Then about 6 months ago I started doing a lot of landscape photography, and I like to do bracketed photos where you can merge them together and make a HDR photo or whatever, and I really needed something different, so I started using LightRoom because the Canon software can only merge 3 photos, and I like to shoot 5, sometimes 7 even, especially when I'm doing interior shots of cabinets and stuff. That's what I am. I'm a cabinet maker, a woodworker. Photography is, I consider myself a professional amateur backyard photographer because I go out in the backyard and shoot photos of mushrooms and flowers and squirrels and birds and stuff. And occasionally I ride around, I'm getting more serious with my landscape photography, so and bracketing photos and merging photos and using filters, and so I really needed a program better than the Canon program, so I started using LightRoom. Maybe that's a little bit too much, and I don't like paying $10 a month for it. So I got another program to merge photos together. Then I used LightRoom a little bit to tweak my exposures and clean up my mistakes in camera, basically. But I like to get most everything right in the camera where I don't have to spend a lot of time editing. Maybe tweaking a color here and there, or tweaking the exposure. That's all I like to do. I don't like to spend a lot of time doing it. So let's get into the computer and I'll show you actually what I'm using and what I think I'm going to switch over to and get away from LightRoom, because I don't really need Photoshop. LightRoom's a little bit too much, and I don't want to pay $10 a month for it. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, here's my desktop, and as you can see, all these over here are all basically photography and video programs and stuff. But let me show you the program I have been using for the last few years, and that's this one. This is Canon Digital Professional 4, and this is actually a pretty good program, but it's kind of slow, but it does basically almost everything I need. Well, see, right here is the issue I'm running into with this when I'm doing landscape photography and I'm bracketing photos. This is kind of stupid, but I always take a picture of my hand, so when I put the photos on the computer, I know the pictures in a row after the picture of my hand are the ones that were taken all at one time and need to be merged together. So I took a picture of my hand. The next 5 pictures are the ones that need to be merged together. But this program will only merge 3 pictures. It will not do 5 or 7 or 9. And the more pictures you use with the different exposures, the better dynamic range you get in the merge. So I like to at least do 5. So, I mean, this thing does everything else. Basically what I need to do, except bracketing. I have an issue with it bracketing. And I didn't realize how limited it was until I actually started using this program, which is LightRoom. Now LightRoom can merge 5 bracketed photos together, but there's still, I mean, with this subscription for $10 a month, I get LightRoom and Photoshop together, but I really normally don't use Photoshop unless I want to start layering stuff and getting into some heavy. I can see why professionals use LightRoom and Photoshop. I mean, it's a massive, endless program of possibilities with digital photos. I mean, if I was a professional photographer and needed to get the best possible pictures for a client, I would definitely use LightRoom in Photoshop. But I'm just a backyard photographer, a professional amateur. I really don't need all this stuff. So before I got LightRoom, I was using the Canon software, digital DPP4, with this, which is Photomatix Pro 6, which I think I paid about $100 for a few years ago. And this is what I use to merge 3 or more photos. This is what I'd merge photos together with to make a blended merged photo, HDR photo. And then I end up taking the HDR photo back into Digital Professional 4 to do the final edits. Then I export it to the desktop into a JPEG and I'm done. But I've been now doing that with LightRoom. But I don't need everything LightRoom has. I mean, it's a killer program. I love it. But I want something I can just buy, be done with it, not have to pay monthly for it. For most of the stuff I don't even use, I'm paying $10 a month for it. So I've been using this program. It's called ON1 Photo RAW 2018. It's brand new. And the more I'm using this thing, the more I'm realizing it's like a blending of LightRoom and Photoshop kind of together. I mean, I'm noticing it does a lot of things LightRoom does better. There's a few things it doesn't do as good as LightRoom, but I think I'm going to end up canceling my subscription to LightRoom and just buying this program and using this with the Canon software. I probably really don't even need to use the Canon software if I'm using this ON1 Photo RAW program. This program here does about everything you need it to do to do basic edits. This is the stuff. I've got a free trial thing for, it's almost expired, so I actually have to buy it or get rid of it pretty soon. But I think I'm going to end up buying it. It's about $100. I own it forever. I don't have to worry about paying for it every month. And it does pretty much everything LightRoom does. It's got a killer HDR merging program that I can merge bracketed photos together with. I'm going to keep plugging away with it. I mean, I'm starting to get used to it and figuring it all out, and I mean, it's actually it's basically easier to use in Lightroom, but that's what I think I'm gonna do. I mean, I like the free Canon. This Canon software program here is free, but it's kind of slow, and it doesn't. It's nothing like Lightroom or this new ON1 program here. This is one photo I edited a little while ago with this ON1 Photo RAW program that I've been playing with, and I mean, this program seems to be working pretty good for me. So that's the moral of the story. You basically gotta use what works for you depending on what you're doing. And I'm not really, I mean, if I was shooting 1,000 photographs a week and had clients paying me to do photo shoots and stuff, it would be Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. 100% all the way. That's what I'd be using. But as it stands right now, I'm just going to end up using this ON1 program to do everything. So far, so good. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Talk to you later.